Hello and welcome to the Marketing Women podcast. I'm your host, Anusha, and it is great to have you here. Are you looking to move into marketing or want to learn marketing from scratch? We discuss all things marketing, analytics, business, personal branding, AI, and much more in a way any layman can understand. If you're new here, make sure to follow along and get on that email list by visiting anushakhannan.com/email list to receive newsletters from me twice weekly. Follow at Anusha Ramesh Khannan on TikTok. Tag us on your stories. Would love to see that. And now let's dive in. Welcome back to this week's episode. I'm super excited about this one as well as always, because today I want to talk about messaging, marketing messaging that will actually stick and make a difference. Because I was actually just talking to a friend and I was like, with AI and there are so many frameworks, trust me, I love frameworks, but there are so many frameworks and methodologies and structures that at this point, it's like you really can just expect what to expect. You know what to expect, right? It's like you know what they're going to talk. You know that there's going to be one message on top and then, hey, I'm solving this for you. And then it's like, hey, this is how I'm solving this for you. There are too many, I don't know, there's so much noise, right? And I want to talk about messages that will make someone go oh my God, I needed that. I understood that. I feel seen, or actual human things that I just wanted to talk about today. So let's get into the first thing. And this is the cliche thing, the basic, which is knowing your audience. And by that, I don't mean knowing the demographics, but more their habits, their fears and dreams. Because think about this, as humans, we were born, we have our parents, we have our family, and then we go to school. And then we have a range of emotions in those couple of years, right? That decade, we have range of emotions, range of fears, learning a lot of different things. When you have a product or a service, how can you cater, put yourself in their shoes? What did you go through? Think about it that way. Your messaging is not just to push a product or push your service, but be more relatable. And don't try to be relatable, actually be relatable. Or let's say you go to college, the same thing, you know the cycle, right? Think about that. If you think about habits, for example, let's say you're marketing to someone who's into fitness. Marketing, to me at least, is basically telling people this exists so that when they have that problem or the pain point, quote unquote pain point, they'll think of us. So let's imagine you're marketing to someone who's into fitness, like I was telling. You think, cool, let's push workout gear. But if you actually dig a little deeper and think a little bit about why are they into fitness, there are multiple reasons. Even if you open Instagram, you'll see there are some people who go to the gym to look attractive. There are some people who go to the gym for their mental health. There are some people who go to the gym because they like looking fit or they like feeling fit. And then there are some people that go to the gym because they just you know the trend, right? So there are so many different things, and these might look like a real or an entertaining thing, but these are actual mindsets. These are actual humans. So if you dig a little deeper, you might find out there are more things like mental health and more than self-discipline that goes into this. Some people might just be you know what, I want to be good at one thing, and that one thing is going to be me going to the gym every single day, but I just need someone to help me stay accountable. And you might have an app that does just that. This is why knowing your audience is not just target someone that lives in this country, lives in this city, is of ages, blah, blah, blah. That does not shift anything. This shift, it will be a game changer. Let's move to second point. The second one is unique selling point. Now we talked about the app, right? The workout, the fitness app. A lot of fitness apps are out there. Why should they resonate with you? Personally, I feel only if you have the founder or someone that's relatable, that will be a unique selling point. Having a personal brand as the founder can give a little edge into why someone should buy your product over someone else's. Hey, just a quick second. If you're into these kinds of topics, AI topics, I've been doing TikToks where I break this stuff down in short videos. You can check them out through the link in the episode description if you're interested. Let's get back into the episode. Or there are two things you can do with your messaging. It's got to be clear. It's got to be catchy. If you think about Nike, you know the tagline. If you think about Apple, you know Think Different, the campaign. Because all of these things, they were never about just the product. With Apple Think Different, it was not about computers. It was about mindset. Think different. And that is a very, very powerful statement if you don't realize it. And you don't have to be Apple, but you do need to define what makes you or your brand you. More often than not, now I see on social media that people talk about brands like, hey, this might look like a brand talking to you, but it's actually a human being that's creating this content. Like if I put this on sound bites on LinkedIn, if I put this podcast's logo and put it out there, people are going to be like, oh, just some young girl blabbering. But this is an actual human who's putting a lot of thought and effort into thinking about what would benefit others from learning, what type of journey I'm on, what's currently on my mind. Like an actual human that's actually speaking into a mic sitting at her home in her desk. Like the fact that I gave you that right now would have given you a visual like, oh my God, Anusha's actually sitting in her home. She's not sitting in a studio. She's actually sitting in her home. Right? Your unique selling point is something that has to be very clear, very catchy. Pro tip, if you have a more engaging, memorable one, it's even better. Which leads me to my third point, tell a story. Stories are everything. Why do we still go and watch Marvel movies? We know the taste of it. We know how it's going to look. We know how it's going to feel. Why do we keep watching Spider-Man even though they keep switching the actors? Even though we know, okay, he's a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. We know everything that's going to happen. Just a little bit of plot difference. Think about this when you're telling your brand story. If you're thinking like, why should I add to the noise? Why should I talk about my story? A lot of people are doing about this. What makes me different? What makes you different is not everybody can relate to you, but there are only a few people that can relate to you, and your story is important. If that's not convincing, think about this. Like scientifically, our brains are wired to remember stories because they trigger emotions and empathy. When I tell you a little bit more about myself without just making it be like, okay, guys, this is what you're supposed to do. This is the message you're supposed to talk about. This is marketing. Oh my God, I love marketing. If I tell you a little bit about myself, like the sun's setting at 4 p.m. and that really pisses me off, it's going to reel you in. Whenever I talk about marketing, I'm not saying in terms of like manipulate people, but more like think about what would excite you. Going back to Nike, they don't just sell shoes. They sell perseverance, struggle, victory, all of this through storytelling. Your message should take your audience on a journey. Like paint a picture, set a scene, let them feel something. That's really interesting, but hold on a second. I've got something just as exciting to share with you. Elevator Gazette is your go-to newsletter for elevating both your personal and professional life. Every Sunday, get tips on achieving balance and personal growth. Every Thursday, receive career advice, marketing strategies, and professional development insights, and much more. Plus, stay updated with the latest from my podcasts and much more. Join my newsletter today at anushakan.com/email list and start elevating your journey. Let's get back into the show. The fourth point, which, wow, truth bomb, simplicity wins. I don't know about you, and I just said in the beginning too, I love frameworks only because I love clarity. Nobody likes chaos. It's fun for a little bit, but then it's like, no, want to go back to my not so chaotic life because our brains crave clarity. If your messages take too long to digest, you've already lost people. And I don't even have to start with how less of an attention span we have these days. We don't have the energy to sit and like read a bunch of shit and then try to understand what they're trying to say. Like we don't have time for all of that. Like Google is so simple, so clean, easy to digest, easy to understand. So your message has to be very simple. I always think about it this way. If you cannot explain what you're doing or what you understand or what your brand does, your product does, service does to a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old, you definitely don't know what you're doing. I've seen a lot of like these videos on Instagram where founders are asked to explain what their business is about. And then they go off like on 10 different tangents, which shows that they might have multiple visions like for their brand, but they have no idea at their core what they're trying to do. And people don't have the interest to sit and like, oh my God, I'm going to wait for you to tell me what you're doing for like 20 minutes. No, which brings me to my next point, which is focus on feelings, not just features. People buy from people, but people also buy for the feelings it brings them. Think about luxury cars. I talked to my grandmother about luxury cars the other day, and she was like, I don't understand what's the selling point of all this. Like, why are people spending so much money? Is it really that big of a deal, like talking about these cars or owning these cars? Like, what's the big deal? She doesn't care about that because she doesn't care about that, given her age. But for youngsters, it's like a big deal. It's a status quo. This shows that luxury car brands they're selling prestige and they're selling comfort, status. It's not just, oh my God, this car's got this much horsepower. Horsepower, again, is only in conversations when people are talking about or comparing, hey, my car has this much horsepower. How much does your car have? It's again like who's winning. Focus on the emotional benefits. What does owning your product or service feel like? Because that is what will stop. Which brings me to my next point, and talking a little bit about like feelings and psychology and stuff. FOMO is a big thing. Sales ending soon. Limited stock. These push people to act, right? But one trick that I've kind of seen here is it needs to be authentic. Because people can sniff out fake urgency from a mile away. It's more like about creating genuine scarcity, or just be like, hey guys, this is only going to be available from this date to this date. Like, don't put too much pressure on it. Don't keep advertising it too much. Don't keep like pressing too much on it. People, if they want it, they will keep an eye on it. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. The next one is consistency isn't just good branding. It actually builds trust. If I posted an episode like 10 months ago and then I came back, you guys would probably listen because you're all so nice. But would you like trust me to like come up with the next episode like pretty soon? Probably not. Consistency and trust goes hand in hand, which applies to messaging because your message has to be aligned across all touch points. One of the things I always like think about, like let's take a company, if their messaging is like off, their messaging says one thing to customers, one thing to employees, one thing to like potential hires, one thing to like partners, that would feel so off and you wouldn't trust that brand. Have you noticed like Coca-Cola's message that stays the same, whether it's a billboard or a tweet? That's the consistency I'm talking about. The next thing is, of course, like we've talked about a lot of these messages, but no one gets it perfect on the first try. Testing, testing, testing. A/B testing. If you don't know what A/B testing, it's basically where you put out two versions of a message and see which one sticks better. The data that you get will tell you what's working and what's not. Just pay attention to that. And then you can adjust. It's basically all about learning and iterating. I have two more things to say. The ninth point is keep things fresh. Even the best message can get stale because people crave novelty. Like, yeah, old stuff, like relatable stuff, yeah, I get it. But sometimes it's like, come on, guys. I have like million videos that look the same, million content that looks the same, million messages that look the same. Do you remember when Old Spice kind of revamped its message with those hilarious ads? They took something old and made it feel new. It's just about how you can kind of refresh your approach, but you've got to also stay true to your core message. Lastly, keep an eye on what others are doing too. Not to copy, but to stay inspired. What's trending? What's resonating? Analyze why certain campaigns go viral. And it's not about doing the same thing again. It's just about understanding what makes those messages work. Don't look at a trend and be like, I'm going to jump on it because it'll get my brand out there too. You can do it at times, but at the same time, think about, why is this going viral? Like, this is my biggest problem. I analyze so much. I overthink so much about all of these things. I'm like, why is this video going viral? She or he or this person's literally saying the thing that everybody already knows. So think about it that way. So to wrap it up, great marketing messages are not magic. They're just innovative. They're tested. They're refined. Start with your audience. First of all, be very clear, be emotionally resonant, and stay consistent. But most importantly, the most important point, keep learning. Now, I want you guys to tell me one thing. What's the one marketing message that stuck with you lately, or something that you will just never forget, and why? Like, drop it in the comments or DM me on Instagram, DM me on LinkedIn. I'm genuinely, and I would love to hear from you. That's all for today. Hope you find it useful. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or email me at anusha@anushakanan.com. Follow me on LinkedIn to never miss my journey, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.